All right. For the people that didn't come back from the last video, they're going to miss out. Because I'm going to keep talking about some stuff here. Oh. Here we go. And that's weird. I didn't know I was going to be doing all this. I just turned on the camera. And when I left the gas station, and that was a video. Then I made another one. And here we are doing the third one from leaving the gas station and deciding to turn the camera on. So, I was talking about when I was a kid and getting to see sticking up for kids that were getting picked on, and then the bullies wouldn't because I stood up, they didn't want to fight with me or that, and they had respect for me. So then I was able to incorporate working together with everybody and being friends, even the kid that they used to pick on. And then I got to watch how that changed to where the kid who used to be the bully, a couple times I got to actually see the moment in their eyes or their soul when they realized and felt really sorrowful for how they used to pick on that kid. And I knew at that moment that even if I had moved or was no longer around, that those two would now be friends forever. He wasn't going to start picking on him again because I wasn't around anymore, And it was really neat as a kid even to see that and to be aware of that. It was a wonderful feeling, to know that that kid wasn't going to get picked on anymore. Matter of fact, I knew at that moment that if somebody else were to pick on that kid, the kid that used to pick on him, oh boy, he would be standing up for him just like I did. But he might even do it a little more aggressively. But I don't think he would have picked on he would never pick on him again, but I don't think he would have picked on anybody else again. I think he was able to find his own revelation in it all, because once he realized, I could see it. I'm having one particular moment in my mind that I could just see how that kid had a revelation, and he really, at one moment, he just really started liking that kid, and that was the moment he knew he could feel, that's my friend, I care about this kid, and I knew right then he'd never pick on him again. I could see it in his eyes. And I think it even changed him forever picking on anybody else, because of what he felt in that moment. It's like things might have been growing on him because we're all hanging out and screwing around doing kid stuff together, whether we were doing flips on the railing bars. Because we're kids, we'd find our own things to play with. It ain't like today where you got all these devices and stuff. So we had to use our imagination, And the railings that we had at the school, were like almost like iron gas pipe, only fatter version of it. It's probably like a fence post, like a fence post pipe, but instead of all the fencing in it, it was just that, and then it had the corner tubes and then the top tube going all along, which was still a nice round iron pipe or whatever. And they were set, I don't know what the height was. They were tall to us kind of as kids, but now that I'm adult, they'd probably seem short, But yeah, we'd grab those and we'd do somersaults on them, hang on to them and flip over, and stuff. And we tried doing different, then we'd try sitting on them and hanging on and flipping backwards. But we had to make sure, sometimes we made the mistake of hitting our heads because whether the ground humped up in that area or something, so we had to find an area that we knew we weren't going to smack our heads or something, But, that was something we'd do, And we might even climb around on the baseball backstop fencing or something, or something. I don't know. We did a lot of stupid stuff that we had fun with. It wasn't stupid. We still had fun, and it was good exercise. And sure, you might skin your forehead because you tried doing a little flip on this bar, but then you learned next time to tuck your head or something, or bunch into a ball more. And of course, you could skin your head. You turn and look at your friends. Ooh, did you see that? and you already got the beginning of the scab going here with a little blood, Yeah, you got a mark on your head too. But we didn't, start crying. Oh my God, I hurt myself. I mean, I guess if it was bad enough, we would have. But just doing that, after went from the bullying to us going back to just playing together, and them knowing that I'm not going to be hanging out with you if you're going to pick on this kid or any other kid. That's not who I am. So any kids that are going to get picked on, they can come hang with me, and we'll stay away from you guys or something, but you ain't going to pick on them, But we won't invade your space either, If you don't like us, we'll go over there. We'll all hang out over here and play, Well, they ended up wanting to hang with us because we were fun. And but yeah, seeing that interaction that we were now all playing together, and then they actually became friends instead of being forced into feeling like they got to pick on each other or something to have a status. You know? I don't know. It's just really neat, you know. And as a kid, that made me feel so good that kids weren't getting picked on anymore by bullies, and that bullies were actually, now they were friends enough to where if any new kids came or new bullies, they'd stick up. And we even had incidences like that. Older kids that were probably from junior high or high school or something. Well, not probably not high schoolers, but maybe junior high people or something. That might have came by and started to say something to us little grade school kids. And the bully kids would start sticking up for all the other kids because they still had that scrappiness in them, you know. So that was kind of neat to see too, you know. Because then they went from being a bully to defending, you know, and that was cool. God, I don't know what's getting me on these memories. Very good though. They're good stories and fun parts of my life. I don't know what I didn't tell you. I got time to tell you. I used to ditch school. Uh-oh. Well, Lord, I'm going to tell them. You know, I didn't like school for multiple different reasons. I don't know. It changed. My reasons changed as I went to school, but I didn't care for school even when I was in kindergarten. Believe it or not, that is when I started ditching school. Yes, me ditching school in kindergarten. And when I used to hang out with the older kids, because of my brother, who's I'm not happy with these days. You know, I tried to help him a lot of years, but I got to stay away from that subject because it's not a good subject. But anyway, back then, even though he was a butthead then too, but I was still a kid growing up, not realizing what a bonehead he was. I don't know. I hope he gets better. There you go. I wish he'd wake up one day and be a good person instead of blaming the world on everything else and take responsibility for himself. Don't get sidetracked, Darren. Ditching kindergarten. There we go. Okay, let's get back to the fun stuff. Yeah, I could feel the seriousness coming in when I started thinking about my brother. But anyway, we'll hang out with the big kids. There was these sand caves we used to go hang out at that weren't too far from the apartment complex we lived in. Down by the Ramsey house off of Exchange Street. Or is it Exchange Street? I think it is. Yeah, the Ramsey house. That's a historical house. Very cool place. If you can ever get there to see it in St. Paul, Minnesota, Ramsey House. It's right across the street from a fancy restaurant that's called the Four Paws. And that Four Paws used to be a house before it caught on fire and burned when it was a family home. I won't get into that too much. I was there when that happened too. But then whoever bought it, because it was a big mansion house, they ended up renovating it into a business and made it a bar and restaurant. It's really like a fancy kind of like a fancy B&B, but it's not a B&B. It's a bar restaurant, and it's supposedly one of the most haunted places in our state. And I know because I know what happened in the fire and stuff. But anyway, we're gonna get another sidetrack subject I don't want to talk about right now. And the Ramsey House is right across the street, and unless they changed what they have there at the Ramsey House, because the Ramsey House is a museum, and it was the house belonged to Alexander Ramsey. If I'm saying that all correctly, I better watch what I'm saying because I might get too excited and misspeak facts or something. But when I was in there as a kid, they had a Lincoln's bedroom in there, and I just thought that was so neat because I liked Abraham Lincoln as a president as a kid. Just hearing some of the things Abraham Lincoln did made me kind of look up to him because he did good stuff. You know, in school they told me that. When they told me that he freed the slaves and stuff, you know, well, I thought, hey, he's a good guy, you know. That's my favorite president. And then I started learning how he taught himself math and stuff by using charcoal to write on the back of a shovel, like a chalkboard. And he started self-educating himself. I've done that a little bit myself. So, getting sidetracked again. So we had these caves that we'd go hang out at. And we were little hellions, I guess you could say. We were little brats, you know, we were little kids growing up and getting into a little bit of trouble. You know, sometimes kids are bored and they gotta figure something to do, and that something might be getting them into trouble. So we go down there, and we'd go down by the railroad tracks too a lot, especially once we knew where these caves were. Then we had this like little busted tree branch we could throw over the edge and prop it, so the big concrete wall that led up to where the caves are, we could scurry down that branch to get down to where the train tracks were. Otherwise, you had to go all the way out and walk for blocks and blocks down, and then go down the one main road and cut back over and get back. So we tried making little shortcuts so we could get in and out of there quick. Well, we go down the railroad tracks, and we used to put like pennies or nickels and stuff on the railroad tracks, and then we go sit up by the caves and wait for the trains to come by, and then we run back down there and get our squished coins. It was kind of neat to think that, because we couldn't squish or bend a coin or nothing, not even with a pair of pliers. We weren't strong enough for that stuff. And then to think that train was so heavy and stuff, they would just mash that coin out. We'd even pile coins and mush them together like a penny with a nickel. Sometimes they'd get squished out, and they wouldn't stick. But if you get lucky, you could get them to kind of mush together. Well, my memories are just going through. Oh, I better hurry. Time's getting short. So we'd grab loose railroad spikes too. We didn't know any better. We'd find ones laying around, but then we'd even like grab ones that were on the track and see if they were rock loose at all. If they're loose, we'd try to pull them out so we'd have an extra spike. Oh, we were goofy kids, but we didn't know any better. We didn't know that. We didn't even think about that's what holds the track in place, or something. When we were little kids, you very rarely could you get the ones that pull out of the railroad ties. But you'd find them laying around, and the ones laying around were the ones that the railroad guys would find the loose ones, pull them out, and then redo a new one or redo them in that area, or else they might even replace a railroad tie or something, to re-anchor them. But we'd find them old ones, and then we'd use them to throw at the metal box cars as they'd come by to see the sparks. Well, that was so much fun. Well, then it kind of became a thing, and we started seeing what would happen when we'd throw it at different parts. But we'd have to watch for the cabooses too, because they used to have a caboose on trains, and the train attendant would ride in there, and we didn't want to, hurt a person. Plus, we didn't want to get in trouble, and we knew that they'd spot us. So by the time that caboose was coming, you better be sitting there, So, I don't know what my point was there about this stuff with the train tracks. Oh yeah, because of my ditch in school in kindergarten. Well, because I'd been down there with the big kids and stuff and knew that as a place. Well, when I ditched kindergarten, I would go to school like I'm supposed to, because my mom was a single mom and she had to go to work. So, and I had a key, so I had a responsibility at a kindergarten age, and the key I didn't use right away. I devised a very good plan. I'm going to have to tell about that in the next video. So you better come back. But I didn't use the key yet. Right? When I first started ditching in kindergarten, I'd ditch and I'd walk where I'd go meet the school patrol, to walk to school with them. And I'd already found out that, because the first time I started ditching, I couldn't just leave school patrol because somebody'd say something, so I had to go all the way to school. And then when we got to school, then you split away from patrol and everybody just goes through the hallways to go to their class, whatever. Well, I went in the one side of the school where we'd come in on school patrol, and I just walked right on through the school, and I think I stopped at the bathroom. We had this Jefferson's an old brick school, and I don't know if it was built as an elementary school or if it was something before it, but the bathrooms and the old wooden doors had porthole windows, little round ones. So it's pretty kind of cool. Of course, I couldn't look on them. I was a little too short then because they're tall for adults. But so I might have stopped in the bathroom. I got another funny story about that too. I'll have to tell that in the next video. And that's a good one. Oh, time's running short. So I went to the bathroom and then came out and went down the hallway, or I just went straight through, went out the other end of the building, and then walked back home. And I ran into one of my friends. I don't know if that was the first time I was ditching or second or third time or something. And they seen me going out the other door, and my friend asked me where I was going. And I told him I felt sick. I was going to go back home and let my mom know I was sick, and I was lying. It wasn't Tiger. I was lying. But then I'd go down to those railroad tracks to the caves all by myself as a kindergartner, and that's where I'd hang out for the day. And I'd go back home after that, and I wasn't totally aware. I knew of time then, but I didn't. I think it was before I had my little wind-up watch. I got this little wind-up watch. It was kind of clear, and it had like a little teeter-totter thing on it. And you'd wind it up, and that thing would go tick, 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 like this. That was a cool watch. I think my grandpa got me that. It was a little kid's plastic watch thing. I don't know if it kept the greatest time, but semi-accurate. It might lose a few minutes a day or something like that. But it wasn't like a real watch. So it wasn't perfect with timing. God, I should go online and see if I can find a copy of that old watch. I think it was neat for a little kid's watch. But I don't even know what made me think of that. So I'd go down to the railroad tracks and hang out by myself down there and then go home. And then I'd come back towards the neighborhood, and then I'd watch for the patrol kids coming the way they'd come. And I'd get by my house so I could watch for the patrol kids. And then I'd have to either wait till the patrol kids went away and then go into the house, or I'd have to get in there right before them. And so just in case my mom was there or something, I could just say, it looked like I just got home from school. That's kind of sneaky. Now, what was I going to talk about? The key. When I start come up with the brilliant idea with the key. Okay, so thanks for watching. God bless you. Guess you'll have to come back to the next one. Talk to God, say hi to him, let him know Darren says hi. We'll see you in the next one.